and gentlemen. We'll take you to the context first of semi-arid tropics in the world. There are about 1 billion people in the world who live below the poverty line and who don't even get a square meal per day. And this comprises of the area which are very arid, dry, and 95% of the semi-arid areas are in India and Africa. So I am from ICRISAT, a 35-year-old institution which is into core research and developing products which will benefit the farmers to grow crops with seeds which can sustain different diversities of the climate change and problems. As we are sitting in the ICRISAT board to convince the proposal, what we are thinking is we are looking at innovation at two fronts. On the top, we are going to target high net worth and network individuals and sell the concept to their heart, not for the money. The 2 million is very meager for a high net worth individual. At the bottom, we are looking at the bottom of the pyramid, the farmers and the families who need food. Food is the basic need. At the same time, they need to have the self-respect of not being dependent on donors. So this is more of a franchisee model, not a grant-based proposal. So the facts, 80% of India is arid. We'll start with India. People are hungry. The solution to help families survive in these environments exists. And we have products which can be scaled up. So all we need is one investor in the chain who starts a movement. Their investments goes to a village. The village will comprise of families who are basically farmers, and the farmers will become members of this consortia, which is a franchise. That means they'll become a shareholder in the franchise, which will actually produce seeds. One village will distribute seeds to 10 villages to ensure food supply is ascertained for the villages around. At the same time, they grow seed for themselves. So it meets their food, it meets their seed need, it meets their future requirement of the next year's crop, and the surplus is always goes back to the franchisee, and which generates revenue on the long run. So maybe you can go to the next.
Yeah, so the exciting thing for the investor, and I'm afraid we have also chosen Nina. So Nina is the investor that makes something really incredible possible. She has funded the seed capital for a really great moment in a village and in a family to be replicated indefinitely across India. And the key thing, just to summarise really, the key thing about the idea and what makes it innovative is that, as we were saying, it's a franchise, but rather than it being in a kind of the classical sense that you pay back rent in kind of financial terms, the kind of rent that comes back from the franchisee, which is the village, is the surplus seeds. And it's the seeds which are so exciting because they really are amazing and can completely transform agriculture. And seeds in this context are incredibly high value commodity, particularly compared to food. So they really are, even though they seem like something small, they're actually incredibly valuable, and that's the thing that we're asking Nina to sort of start. So just to summarise, again, 3 key reasons why this is different and why it's innovative. It's making business people out of the very poorest families. So these farmers who really would have nothing, we're encouraging that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, we're encouraging this kind of consortium approach, and we're creating these franchises all across India, and that's only possible by this initial investment from Nina, who starts the whole chain off. Really importantly, and this is going back to the insights that we've all read in the brief, so it's connecting Nina with her roots. So this sense that she has of really having lost this connection with India and a sense of guilt that comes from that. As someone else was saying, that the fact that it could have been her, her father had made a different choice in life. It could have been her living in a semi-arid region in India, really struggling to make ends meet. So it connects her personally, but it also enables her family to make this connection. And we'll come on to summarise. We've actually given the project a name, and we would call it Nina's Roots, with a nice kind of fit, obviously, with the fact that we're talking about agriculture and it's cereals and it's vegetables and it's everything that has physical roots. So it gives her a way of actually making that connection, involving her kids who really need to understand what it's like over there. We would actually offer her and her family the opportunity to come and visit after a couple of years, just to see how the progress has been made, how one village has had a knock-on effect on the next. It also enables her to, again, empower her network and get her peer group involved. It's very likely that she will have kind of expats within her peer group who she can also involve, who will have the same kind of emotional connection back to India. So she's connecting with her longed for roots and also with other families, so the families in India. But really, really importantly, it's solving a key challenge for this organisation, which is about distribution of the seeds. So a lot of the charity's budget is spent in research and coming up with these incredible solutions to really complex problems in agriculture. Very scientific, very precise, the activity that's happening. But what's really hard is to then get that out there, to spread that across these huge, vast areas of India. So how do they do that and make that sustainable over time? And the way to do that is through this franchise model that requires this initial investor and someone who will then see the fruits of that labour, but to make sure that these communities and villages and farmers and families within that take ownership of that to allow distribution of these magical seeds to happen across India. So this is our summary really. We've talked it through, but this just kind of graphically, just to kind of help everyone be clear what the idea is. So you have an investor funding programme, and for Nina we call it Nina's Roots, and for the next Nina obviously it's their roots. It's this really, that's taking the insight, connecting them back to their origins. So, and they will involve their peer network, will encourage people to share this idea with their friends. This obviously helps with the idea that she's a social climber. She wants something that will give her a kind of positive reflection and kudos among her friends. And also, to really deliver on the promise, we have to guarantee that she can come and visit in a couple of years, see the village that it started, see the next village, see how everything worked and how it's actually benefited thousands of people potentially. So she's sort of funding these amazing, priceless seeds. So we need to sell it as a high-value proposition, and we need to really dial up the kind of the science and the research behind these seeds, so that she can see the value in that it doesn't just feel like, pumpkin seeds. So they're very high value. They're scientifically researched, very special. But this is how it all starts. So the seeds are then provided to Village Franchise 1. And so this is, the investment is made into this village. And as we were saying, there are then 3 benefits. Distributed out to farmers who then have the food that they desperately need. They also have next year's seeds, so it becomes sustainable in its own right. But the business model for the charity, the really key thing is that this surplus of seeds comes back into the centre. And by returning the surplus, which remember are very high value, that can then go on to start up another franchise. So that's the kind of the investment into franchise 2, and so it goes on. So they have their food, they have next year's seeds, they will also have the surplus, which comes back in. So Nina has set this whole incredible chain reaction going just from her initial investment. And then it's just important to say, obviously, this is scalable. So each investor will have a sense of how this effect is really quickly covering huge areas within India, but it would be replicable for people who are expat from Africa as well. And as we were saying, there are 1 billion people who are living in these areas across the world, so all we need to do is find the connections and start that ball rolling.